I am so grateful that y'all decided to join us this evening. I am here with a friend, someone who I deeply admire, not just as an artist, not just as a mentor, not just as a brilliant writer and an organizer, but as a human being. Mars is like one of the most humble, brilliant people that I've ever known in my entire life. Like, you would not know the extent to which this person contributes
Wow.
to the world, just based on the way that they navigate the world. And so they just kind of sit back behind the scenes and make sure everything is running for everybody else most times. And then you find out like that they have like anthologies and winning awards and teaching young people, and you just wouldn't know that all this is happening. And so I want Mars, welcome to the
Oh,
discussion.
what's up?
I'm just super excited to be here with you.
I'm so excited to be here. I feel so grateful to be in conversation with you always,
Yes,
but to
they don't
be
get
in
to see it
community
most
with you.
times.
I know it's like we are inviting y'all to the happy hour. You know what I mean? So welcome to our
Welcome to
happy
our
hour.
happy hour, y'all. Welcome. I want to get right into it. Like, how have you been navigating all the things, right? We're literally in a pandemic. We're suffering global uprisings. I mean, the world is just going through a thing, right? Going through a lot of growing pains. I like to think of it as growing pains because growing pains actually hurt. And so I'm wondering, like, how have you been navigating this creatively, personally? Like, what are some of your practices to get through this moment?
Mm. I feel like this is such a really good question because I find myself needing to shift what that looks like as more mess comes, right? But I want to kind of throw it back to a moment at the beginning of last year in January. So, for folks who don't know, I work as director of the Allied Media Conference, which is a program of Allied Media projects. And we kick off every year with an all staff retreat. And at this particular all staff retreat, we had Mama Neb, who I love, Dr. Gloria House, love Mama Neb.
Yes.
We had Shay Howe and we had Sterling Tolles as guest speakers, right, to sit on this panel. And one question that Grace Lee Boggs always posed was, "What time is it on the clock of the world?" Right?
Yeah.
And Mama Neb was like, "I don't know what you all need to do, but you need to ensure that you fortify yourself spiritually because the fall of white supremacy is upon us. The
Woo!
fall of capitalism is upon us." And at that moment, right, we were just like, "Oh, yes, this is so good. Okay, we need spiritual fortitude." Sterling offered us a question like, what does it look like for us to move beyond love? Like, what is the next step beyond love for us to be in right relationship with each other? And this is all top of the year January retreat, and we're taking in all of these gems, and we had no idea what was coming. Um, and I think
Wow.
that
Wait, you had no, and this is pre, all the uprisings, the murder of George Floyd, the pandemic, everything. Wow, what
yeah,
foresight.
that was
Wow.
January of last year, right? So
Mm.
that was before we got into the weeds of, you know, COVID and um, once again having to deal with the pandemic of police killing Black folks, right? And thinking a lot about like, my trans sisters being murdered, right?
Yeah.
Thinking a lot about what we were facing in that year. And that was the message that came at the top of the year. Nobody knew,
Right.
right? And sitting in that room. And I like to think that the thing that has kept me grounded through all of this is a series of rituals, right? A series of like spiritual practices. My friends and my family know that the morning is sacred to me, right? I don't wake up early, so let's put it out there. I'm not like a 6 a.m. riser, but I wake up at around like 7:15, and my morning ritual is so integral into how I can enter into my day, right? And in so many ways, that moment of just like meditation in the morning, that moment of listening. A poet offered us in a workshop a very interesting challenge, which was every day to write one observation from our environment. And
Mm,
she called those listening points. And I think that the thing that has been keeping me grounded is finding the listening point in every day, right? Whether that be like the sound of rain outside of my window, or my niece FaceTiming me and then propping the phone up next to her so I can watch whatever she's playing on YouTube. I think that those are the moments that have kept me grounded the most, because um, I think in the absence of those moments, in the absence of friendship, in the absence of ritual, in the absence of family, I'm not sure how I would have had any of the fortitude to make it to where I am right now in this time.
ooh, Ashe, you said so much in there. I mean, first of all, like that, yeah, I remember that moment at AMC. What I mean, Mama and Neb always dropping jewels, but I mean, and
Always.
Sterling and Shay, right? But that one right there, and then the moving into the practice, and like I can just imagine your niece, like, I mean, those moments that we, tend to take for granted, at least pre this situation, right? And now they're just so valuable
Hmm.
and sacred, because I mean, we've lost so many people. We've lost so
Yeah.
many people just over the last year.
Yeah.
Um, and I was taught when I was younger that silent and listen have the same letters for a reason, right? And just
Hmm.
hearing the ways that you reflect and use that practice is just reiterates that to me. Um, and before we go further, we got to talk about this sweatshirt you're wearing.
Oh yeah.
Got to talk about the sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about the sweatshirt.
Yo, so one shout out to Bryce Detroit, who
Yeah.
is an incredible artist, uh, black artist in Detroit's like Oakland Ave area, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. North End.
Doing amazing work in the North End. So Hood Close to Gentrifiers is an entire movement around sort of development and what it means to um, make sure that the hood is protected from these outsiders that are coming and building in Detroit. So I would encourage everyone to go check out his campaign. I believe it's brycedetroit.com. And he has a whole campaign and write up around the project. Um, and yeah,
That's dope. I was like, I know the people like, what's that sweatshirt? I'm gonna want that sweatshirt. So we might as well let them know.
let them know,
All
support that movement.
Yeah, yeah. And Brycey Trade, you already know, part of the Petty Propolis family, hooked us up at the festival.
Yes,
And we got you on advisory, and I mean, drop some poems, and like I don't know, it's just been a lot. Normally at this time we'd be planning the festival, right, in historic
right.
Idlewild. But that's okay. We're gonna come together the best way we can come together, and these intimate moments are so tremendous. So let
Absolutely.
talk to me about Mars. Like, who is Mars?
That's such a amazing question. Who is Mars? I'm a writer. I'm writing through the genre of poetry right now, with future hopes of diving into other genres later on. I'm a cultural organizer, as you all just heard. I direct the Allied Media Conference, where I work with hundreds of people making media, yeah, for justice, for change, right? Um, and I think it's really important to note, like when we talk about media, we mean any way in which you communicate with the world. So your media can be food, right? It's certainly a media for me.
Yes.
It could be writing, it could be playing ball on a court. It can be any of those things. Um, Anything in which you're envisioning a new world that we don't have right now that we desperately need. So I'm doing that. Um, I'm an amazing home cook, right?
Yeah.
But I think that there's so many things that make up who I am, both like as an artist, but also in this body. And I think that as a Black, like trans masculine, non binary person, identity is something that is consistently evolving, right?
Yeah.
In the most powerful sense, right? So I think we think a lot about, oh, younger me would be so proud of older me. And I'm like, I don't know what younger me would have to say right now, right?
Mm.
But what I know is that in this body, in this existence, I feel so full, and I feel so full of gratitude to be a person born and raised in Detroit, right? And living here currently, and to be able to do the kind of work that I'm doing right now.
And you left off like all the young people you out here
Uh,
nurturing and teaching the arts to and mentoring, and you have uh amazing young people in your life and your family, but the one that I've got to meet is your nephew
oh
who is
yeah.
towering over you at this point, I think, right?
It's so bad. If somebody would have said, hey, little people at 11 years old will have a shoe size 3 times bigger than yours. And I'd be like, what?
Right.
Someone come get this kid. Right?
Right. You're doing a tremendous job. So I want to talk about some of your creative contributions, right? I just mentioned earlier that if people didn't know, they would not know how much you put into the world, like how much literary genius you put into the world, because you're so humble. You rarely talk about it.
Mm.
If ever, honestly, the first time I ever saw you do poetry, we were actually at an AMP retreat, and somebody pulled up a YouTube video, and I was like, oh, whoa, you didn't tell me, and so I mean, and then I've just been a fan ever since. And so yeah, tell me how you got into the world of writing, and how you got into, when did you first know you were a poet?
Oh man. So I started writing poems in like middle school, like at the end of middle school. Um, when I was like 12, I had this really amazing accident that required me to have knee surgery and everything.
Wow.
And I think I was like down from that for like maybe like 6 or 7 months. And in that time, I just started playing around with lyrics,
Mm.
um, Aaliyah's lyrics specifically, which is a whole nother story.
Well, you already
You
know
know,
me and Aaliyah.
yes, you know.
Like my
Um,
fave.
so I think that, in the poetry brain that I have now, I was creating centos, which is just like these lines made up from different sources into poems. And I was doing that. That was my entry point into thinking a lot about language and writing, was cutting specific lines from, I don't know, Lyric Genius or whatever of Aaliyah's music, and then pasting them into poems. And it wasn't until I got to high school that I actually started writing my own work, and thinking a lot about what it was I wanted to say. And there was a lot of like that wounded teenage, I don't know myself angst, in
Right.
those poems, which they serve their purpose and they're beautiful. And I tell this story a lot. I remember taking an English class in high school, as we all do, and one of the English teachers, the assignment was like write a poem, and I wrote a poem. And she was like, "This is not a poem. You're a horrible writer." And I was like, "Oh, wow."
Wow.
And I kept writing, right? I kept writing anyway.
Thankfully.
Yeah, thankfully. In college, I was with a group of people called Poetry Society. And that's when I started actually diving into, um, performing poetry, hitting the open mic scene, doing the color of drums, and performing in front of larger audiences. So my writing trajectory was like real, like from nascent to where it is now, is such a humbling story. And yeah, right now, um, I'm still trying to cut my teeth as a writer in so many ways. It's work to get your work out there. I'm learning.
Yeah.
But every day I try to nurture this practice, and I'm really humbled by it. I'm humbled by the surprises that come from writing and from reading.
I mean, but you've put a lot out there, right? You've got poems in journals, on archival sites. You've been interviewed. We both had the honor of being featured in Yes Magazine. You've
Hmm.
been in Gertrude Press, Metro Times, Model D. You teach brilliant workshops. Brilliant workshops. I mean, you dropped a poetry tool right here in conversation. That folks are going to pick up, and so. What keeps you motivated? Like, what is it
Mm,
that keeps you picking up the pen?
yeah. I want to say there's a piece in there about discovery, right? Um, there's a lot. I'm surrounded by writers all day, all the time. Even in this point of isolation, if you were to come into my apartment, you'll be like, okay, Nadine's desk is the stack to read. Everything else around them is like what's already been out there, right? What they've already read. Um, and I think what keeps me motivated is that ability to be surprised, right? The ability to ask questions and go down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out that answer in a poem, knowing that you're going to come up short every time, right?
Wow.
And I think that poetry has offered me the ability to ask new questions and to be surprised, to ask a different question and to have some moment of reveal in the answer, right? And I think that's what keeps me motivated is that self-discovery, that communal discovery, but also the opportunity for the work to extend beyond just myself, right? I'm always curious about what happens when someone else engages with a piece, right? What thoughts come up for them? How does it settle in their bodies, right? What is the somatic experience of a poem that exists outside of your own body, outside of your own being? And I think that those possibilities continue to keep me motivated to write, right? And also the opportunity to reclaim our stories and tell our own stories. We know that when other folks control the narrative, it gives them such immense power, right? How do I reclaim that for myself, right? What does that look like? And what is the archival evidence of my body, my existence, and my community that I leave behind um, on the
Wow.
page?
What is the archival evidence?
Mhm.
What is the archival evidence? See, dropping that's probably a poem or will be a poem or should be a poem. I mean, just the poetic. I noticed that a lot in a lot of like really brilliant writers and poets that
Mm,
even when in conversation they sound poetic. You know, it's like wow, I think that could be a poem. Everything that
mm,
you've said. Um, and so I know the competitive nature of slam, the competitive nature of trying to be published, and all those
mm,
things. Like, are there moments that you thought this isn't the thing that I should be doing, or this is too hard? I'll try this again another time. And
mm,
if so, what got you to jump back in?
mm. I don't think that I've had a moment in which I was like, oh, I don't know if this is for me. I think that I'm coming at a point in my life right now where I'm curious about what further mentorship could do for me, right? How do I grow as a writer, right? How do I nurture my craft outside of just myself? I think that I do a lot of self study, right? I
Yeah.
do read a lot of, craft essays and I start thinking a lot about form and I get really excited by all of the things, the technical things that people can teach you, right? And at the same time, it's not the same, right? So I think that versus coming to a point of thinking of being like, oh, this is not for me and feeling unmotivated, it's I'm kind of being steered in a direction of questioning how far can I grow my work alone, right? And at what point do I need further mentorship to push me towards, the possibility of a manuscript, right? To push me towards the possibility of like, I don't know, being with some cute small press that wants to publish me, right? But also to get to a point too, I think I spoke about this before where one of the things that keeps me motivated to write is the element of surprise, right? It's the element of discovery and sitting down to write something and being like, oh, that's what's happening, right? This is what I'm curious about. And I think that when you get the opportunity to study with other people, when you have the opportunity to have those mentors, it allows you to go deeper in your work. And I think that's where I am instead, and trying to find my way through that, which I haven't figured out yet.
Like you're so courageous. I mean, one of the things that would always happen to me is like if I didn't win this particular slam competition, or or I had pursued, this publisher or that publisher, then I would just be like, well, it wasn't meant for me to do that thing. And then, but there
Mm-hmm.
were many times I was like, I really should have stuck it out, right? But I learned that I have my bigger niche is to create a platform for other artists, whether it be a festival or an event or those things. And I still write, but I'm always interested in the motivation of artists that I see just taking it to the next level, like
Mm-hmm.
consistently taking it to the next level. And I always commend you on your dedication and the study of the craft the way that you do. I mean, I remember uh, for most of the pandemic, I would check in with you like, how you doing? You like, oh, I'm reading a book. And I'm like, oh, what book are you reading? And it would be a different book than the book the day before. And I was like, how are you reading this many books? This is wonderful.
It's interesting because there's two things I want to say is that one, I've gotten a lot of no's, right? A lot of no's, entered into a lot of contests, especially with my chapbook manuscript that I have right now. Became finalist for didn't get it, right? There's been all of those moments. And the thing that I've been finding and reflecting on is that each no has only gotten me a little bit stronger, right? Has
Mm-hmm.
offered me the opportunity to kind of rework something or reconsider a thing, even without, you know, you submit things and no's don't come with a why. You're just
Right.
like,
It's just like, nope.
you're just like, why didn't you take this? Why was it a finalist and didn't make it? Like, they're not going to tell you why. But I found that like every single no has led me a little bit closer to, especially with this manuscript, it's truest form,
Mm.
which is one thing. And another thing is, the beautiful thing about reading all of those books. I know people that read way more, but I think I read close to 70 books last year.
Wow.
And I kept a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet has like the title of the book, the author, what genre is in, and then my notes on it. Right. So
Wow.
so even while you were like, what are you reading now? It was like a whole spreadsheet going on with little notes about what I learned from that book, what I could be taking away from it.
I would be
And yeah,
fascinated to read a book that journals your notes about books. Seriously. You should do that. Hey, that's for Mars. Nobody else take that idea.
it's for me.
So what manuscript are you working on now?
Yeah, so I'm working on a chapbook manuscript. The working title of it is Flower Boy. And Flower Boy is thinking a lot about queerness and the labels that come with these identities, these queer identities.
Mm.
So boy is just one of them, and boy is spelled with an I instead of a Y. And BOI, that specific kind of boy was a term that was used by, or that was coined by like Black lesbians specifically to
Mm.
separate themselves from the term butch, right?
Mm.
And it was traditionally seen as folks that were more masculine presenting, right? So this book is really thinking a lot about these sort of like queer labels, this queer etymology of sorts, when it comes down to what these things actually mean and how it has led me to a more true identity, um, or to my truest self. I don't want to say a true identity, but to my truest self. And yeah, I have a little poem that I can read
Oh,
about
okay. Go ahead. I'm looking
that.
forward to it.
It's called Etymology, and this is thinking a lot about that boy. It's one of the first poems that you come to in the manuscript. Etymology, boy, noun often attributed. One, a male child from birth to adulthood. My father was once hit by a car while on his way to visit a girl on the west side of Detroit, his teenage hormones guiding him into traffic, body laying full on blacktop streets, and sure, he was okay, but nicknamed Foolish Boy. Foolish Boy met my mother while they were bubblegum smack young, my mother noting all the girls foolishly batting their eyes at my father. I have no reference for how they became a couple, just that they became pregnant with me, and soon after, but before I came, a marriage would mark their blessed union by God in a church, knowing some of his secrets. My father, foolish man with wandering hands, always found another to mark a body as home. My grandfather apologized to my mother for every moment my father fell short of being a good man. On summer nights, he'd sit on the porch with her and say, I'm sorry, daughter, I don't know what's wrong with my boy. B, son. When our mothers no longer call us home, the night swallows our body into a rhythm endless, our movement strobing as the disco ball hangs with obligation. My body a shadow cast on the wall in obligation, knowing that boys don't move. We stand in a pair of Jabot or Sean John jeans with braids tucked neatly under the 5950 ST. An older stud ushers us into a night we're sure to forget. Dark stank clinging to my spine. DJ begs us to forget our names. I drink and forget what it feels like when a mother no longer calls you hers, or when a mother forgets you have her first name. This ritual of giving to the night sky with prayer tucked underneath my tongue, I beg to find my father here, Savior who calls me his son, a boy who smiles the same way he did when he was young. Once I tried on my father's clothes, found his gun in the closet, and thought, this is what makes a man. So I tried on the gun, pulled and pulled until my face became metal, my mouth a hollow home for a bullet each time a woman said I was worthy of love, then said, son, you tripping. Boy, BOI, one, a term coined to describe masculine presenting queer Black folk. When used referring to my body, I origami crane, fold in the intricate shape of masculinity. See my delicate angles, line drawn perfect. The folding is a narrative belonging to boys like me who craft themselves a worthy fit to hold a woman the way boys do, with a gentleness incapable of breaking, until the same woman laughs at the soft parts, rendering all boys worthy of a joke. My mother says she didn't raise a son, as her backhand makes any argument fall down my throat.
Wow. That is a painfully beautiful piece. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
How do you reconcile sharing such vulnerability at a time when you may still be enduring particular circumstances?
Mhm. I think that there's really a fine line between sharing work that is still very much so walking this line of you going through it, right? I think that um, one thing that I try to emphasize with like young people that I've worked with is that you don't have to like spill your trauma for it to be a 10, right?
Hmm.
And by it being a 10, I mean in terms of like slam scores, right? But also in terms of publishing. I think that one thing that feels very true, and so one thing that I'm really, really interested in as well is at what point do Black folks get to live in the mundane and just speak about mundane things? How come we can't write a poem about getting up and brushing our teeth and being delighted that the birds are chirping, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that a lot of things that exist in the manuscript are things that I actually have some distance from, right? Are things that sort of speak toward a past existence, right? With the hope that the through line of the manuscript brings readers to the fullness of where the speaker in the poems exists now. Um, and I think that's not to say that some things don't hurt. I think the things that hurt or the things that don't feel true to read out loud are the things that I won't bring to a reading, right? Are the things that sort of get to just exist where they are, serve the purpose of that healing or being able to get free from that thing. Um, but it took a lot of discernment to understand that anything that you read, if you feel incredibly horrible after that, is something that you don't have to do, right?
Mm,
And I think I hold those things close.
mm. That's very interesting to share because you're right. A lot of times within the competitive nature of
Mhm,
like slam poetry as an example, there is this kind of pull to like shock and awe,
mhm,
the
mhm,
audience,
mhm,
and you work around like a lot of young people who are really, really, I mean, I've seen some really dramatic revelations be shared on stage, and I always wonder about um the healing
mhm, mhm,
afterwards, not just for
mhm.
young people, for us as well.
Yeah.
Consider myself a yelder, but
Oh
like
my
yell.
God. You're not there yet. You're not there yet.
I don't know. I'm getting sir and ma'am and all that a lot. I'm in that. I'm
Not
in
there
that
yet.
that generation of the ma'ams and the sirs and the you know whatever folks want to call me. But I added Yelder, with the Y. Um, but anyhow, I you said something about the poems that you lay down, right? Like maybe you don't or you do particular poems depending on whether you've come through them or they serve their purpose. Do you retire poems?
Oh, absolutely. I
Say
think that
more.
there's
Right.
I think that there are poems that um there are poems that I will never ever read again. Okay. um and
Why?
I think, there's a way in which not everything ages well.
Mm.
Uh I hate to bring this person into the mix, but hopefully people don't disagree with me. I mean, people gonna disagree with me, but I don't like. It's like listening to an album that you're sure you messed with before, right? And you're
Right.
like, I don't mess with this album today.
Yeah.
My classic example is good old 8 Mile Eminem. There's some things
Mm.
where it was just like, oh, that slap maybe whenever, but it didn't age as well, right? And I
Right.
think that there's a way in which um, the poems that I had before um, definitely served a purpose in that time, right? They hit when they hit, and they had to get put somewhere else afterwards, right? I don't know. So I think that there's a way in which I'm grateful for those poems, right? I'm grateful
Mm.
for those poems. Those poems um, helped me see what was possible in terms of my craft and in terms of writing. Those poems opened a lot of doors as well. Um, but I don't think that those poems are necessarily as true for me as an artist as like today, right? Um, so those poems are retired. They somewhere Google can probably read them.
Right,
I'm sure
right.
they have access to them, but yeah, I think that there's a way in which it's completely fine to close the book on certain pieces of content, and to understand that some things just don't age as well,
Mm.
uh, which I think is a growing point for an artist, right, of any kind, to be like, I painted these shoes, and when I was 16, it didn't age as well, So yeah.
Look, I used to fight it. Like, if I didn't feel like writing new poems, and some of my friends would be like, "You gonna do that poem? You did that at the other venue." I used to be like, "Well, y'all don't tell Beyonce she can't sing single ladies."
They sure
Like,
don't. They don't tell Erica Badu that she can stop doing the same set everywhere either. So
that would look. I don't know if I was being lazy or what, but that was my total argument. And it was funny. I had Natasha T. Miller on the other day,
Mhm,
and we were talking about this poem that she had from like '07, where she stood up there and was like, "This may very be my last will and testament." And it was a profound piece, and to this day, it still really sits with me. And I was discussing a poem I wrote about digital conversion, where we're literally talking about the surveillance aspect that we're going through right now. And these
yeah,
poems are like 13, 14, 15 years old.
mhm,
And so it makes me think, even the poems that we retire, sometimes they're so ahead of their time that you
Mhm.
end up bringing the
Bringing them
poems
back
back out.
out.
Have you gotten to that point yet where you like dig in your arsenal and you're like, whoa, this wasn't even happening then, and now it's happening now?
Yeah, I think that there's a way in which I haven't afforded myself the opportunity to look back so often.
Mm,
Um, because I think that in ways there's something in there, right? Around picking picking yourself apart, right? Or picking the art apart, right? And being like, oh, I said that line. Yikes, you know?
right.
And it's not that the content isn't relevant. I think that the thing that has changed for me is my way of entering into the poem, um, and sort of the value that I've placed now on what it means to choose the right words and to really engage in language as living material. And I don't think that I treated language as living material in a lot of my older work. Um, do I think that it still like could resonate today?
Yeah.
Yes. I think that there's also sort of a not so much of a fear in looking back, but a hesitancy in what might be found as well.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't look back as often. But now that you ask that question, it might be a weekend of looking back. I don't know.
Right. You'll be surprised at what you discover that you were talking about, that either is circled back around and the content is relevant now, or, you were speaking it ahead of its time and now it's time for that piece to be back out.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and look.
So talk about a few more of your other works. Like what are some other things that you've participated in artistically that you are pretty proud of?
Mm, I think one thing that I'm really proud of is one having the opportunity to be a writer in residence with Inside Out Literary Arts Detroit,
Yes.
um, and teaching through the Citywide Poets Program, which is an after school program. Um, and I was so humbled and honored to be brought on to do that because it was something that I always wanted to do. And I was like, I've always wanted to be a teaching artist. I've always wanted to do these things. And the thing that was most humbling about that experience is you go into a setting like the main library, right? For instance, or Communication Media Arts High School, CMA on the West Side, and you have these teens that are like so full of energy, so giving, so honest. And the thing that was really humbling was like bringing poems to them and having them actually teach you,
Mm,
right? Like you think you're the one that's like, oh yeah, we're gonna write some poems, we're gonna do this thing. And they taught me so much around what it meant to be a little more transparent and daring in the work, right? How to take risks, right? Um, and I learned that from them, and I was really fascinated by sort of like this feedback loop that exists when you get to go into a classroom and be with younger folks, right?
mm,
So I was really humbled by that, and I thought it was really amazing. I have an opportunity to teach with them again during their summer institute that's happening July 12th through the 16th. It's called Brainstorm, and it's for kids in the 7th to 9th grade, I believe.
oh,
You
wonderful.
can check
Oh,
it out on their website. So I'll be kicking it with like middle school students in
oh,
July, and I'm so excited. My sort of like workshop series will all be thinking a lot about the history of Black Bottom and Paradise Valley. So kids will be thinking a lot about what does it mean to archive our own spaces and to tell the story of our own spaces. And we'll try to tie that in with thinking about their neighborhoods too. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm currently working with Room Project as well on an anthology that's actually going to be coming out featuring women and non-binary writers that have interacted with the Room Project over the last 3 years. So
nice.
that's another thing that I'm really, really excited about and so honored to be a part of.
I can't wait to read all of it and see what comes out of the young people that you get to work with. I mean, Yeah, that's Inside Art Literary Arts is amazing, and the Citywide
Hmm.
Poets are amazing.
Hmm.
Um,
And they love you too.
oh my
Like
God.
every time you come to judge a slam, they're
It's
like,
my
"Oh my
favorite
God,
thing to do.
anytime."
It is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah,
Like,
it's they love
seriously,
you. They
it
love you
is
for real.
so mutual. And really do support them, you all. Like, donate to them, support them. Like, I really deeply value that program. And they bring
Hmm.
brilliant educators like Mars into the program. And it's just tremendous. And the young people are tremendous. Support their slams, summer programs, everything. So how can folks support you? Like what do you need? What does Mars need to take it to the next level? What's Mars's Cash App? What's Mars's web? What's what's your
That is my cash
PayPal?
app.
Like, what?
What is all of it? Um, no, I think the thing that the best way that I can be supported is just um, every now and then a good I see you is just good, you
Yeah,
know?
I see you.
Um, I think that there's some ways in which this moment of isolation, of like not being able to like be in like physically in community with people can sort of like make you feel a little invisible sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, I know that there's a lot that I'm engaging in, I'm doing, and I think the thing that I'm really trying to get better at is sharing with folks what it is that I'm doing. Um, Somebody that I know recently was like, "How come you don't tell people these things?" And I'm just like, "Is anyone interested?" I don't know. So,
Everybody's interested.
so I think I'm really trying to get better at making visible the work that I'm doing so that people know how to support my work. I think the most humbling way that people can support my work right now is just through reading it and engaging with it in some way. Um, to me, that means everything. It's just when people um, read my work. So yeah.
Ashe. And and lifting up the fact that the Black identity is already like an invisibilized and hyper visible identity.
Hmm.
And then you add being trans, non-binary, and trying to exist in a society.
Hmm.
And the hyper visibility and the invisibility, they just collide in a way that a lot of folks don't understand. You can try to be quote unquote allied,
Hmm.
but the
Hmm.
violence is just there, and it's something to acknowledge. Um
Hmm.
and I just want you to know that I see you. I think you are a brilliant and tremendously generous human being. And your contributions will live well beyond
Hmm.
in generations, and you probably don't even see the effect they have and will have for generations to come. And so I'm deeply grateful that you exist in the world. um, and I'm wondering if there's any more poetry you'd like to share with us.
Well, there's always more poems. We always have poems. Sure, I'll share. You want me to share like a couple pieces?
Yes, yeah, oh yes, absolutely.
Um, so there is, um, I like to think of it as like a really shady way that writers just treat themselves, right? Just like, I don't know what it is, but every now and then a writer is just like, I'm gonna write a poem every single day, right? And sometimes this happens during National Poetry Month, which was in April. And sometimes it could just be June. And you're like, I'm gonna write a poem every day.
Feel
But I
seen
just did
right
it.
now, but go ahead.
I just did that. And I think that there's something, I love the practice of sharing my drafts. Um, and I'm gonna share like just two drafts that I came away with from April. Uh, and hopefully y'all rock with them. Um,
Yes.
the first one is called Cartography. I am trying to make a map of my body, see which roads lead me to drink from a river I made with my hands. which veins bend toward the rising sun, what valleys kneel to the day setting. I am deliberate in my making, run my hands over the surface of my flesh to raise a softer boy, to take stock of the mountains claiming home to them too. I am watercolor and ink on gesso, vibrant in my own. I peer into reflective glass and draw the lines of me crooked, find beauty in what is also distorted. I am trying to make a map so I never forget myself. In the early morning, when my body says, no good, no good, no, I look across the terrain to remind myself of all this beauty.
Mm. And that's the draft. Okay.
That's a draft. It's so bad. Now y'all see that one. This one is really fun to me. Self-portrait as a boy born into wealth. My silver spoon melted into fronts drip. I smile and never question my worth. Pull Tom Ford from the closet and turn my own head. Dress because I am the occasion. Buy the Swarovski silver bullet Nike Air Max 97 simply because I can. I'm the bullet lodged in my own teeth. Smile, B. I watch the stock market for entertainment, collect rare bottles of whiskey as trophies, flash my wrist in the Zoom camera because who doesn't want to see me shine? I call my mother just to say I'm alive and listen to none of what she has to say. I visit my father's grave to take selfies. Here lays the man who gave me much. Order me filet mignon and lobster tail over a creamy bed of polenta. Make my bed and watch me F it up. I lament over breakfast, break into a sun ignored, tell you to polish my nails and call me gorgeous. Why? Because I demand it. I'm the solar eclipse, a rarity you hear of in your textbooks. I splurged on college just because, scroll Twitter to feel relatable. I'm simply devastating. My girlfriends say so. In the city, I buy a whole block to be remembered. Ain't no boy better. Put diamonds on my cake and make a wish.
Diamonds on the cake, though? Get it.
Those are just a couple of fun drafts.
Wow. I'm just, like I said, your pen is shootout fire, just nonstop.
Thank you.
Your commitment to the craft is just beyond respectable and commendable. And it's a tremendous model to set for young people, for all people of all ages. Like I said, I sit over here and be like, I really should get through this book, and you'll be on your 47th in the same duration of time. And I just think that's beautiful. And I hope to be inspired to continue to lift my weight in reading again. Like I wake up
We
and I
can book
read
club it.
we need to, because I wake up and read all the drama in the news, and I need to get back to reading a bunch of books, and
Yeah.
hopefully that would inspire me to write more. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the folks listening in about who Mars is, how folks can get in touch with Mars? Like, what do you want us to know?
How you can get in touch with me, that's a great, I like that because I just recently dropped a website.
Woo!
Um, my website is blkboimars.com. That's blackboymars.com. And there's all kinds of information there. You can find a link to my recent publications and see what I'm up to. There's also some really cute Polaroids on the website that y'all might
You
like.
take the
Um,
flyest photos, period. But go
you
ahead.
know, photos. I just started getting into film photography recently. I
All the
was like, I need
talents.
a different way a different lens to see through. So I decided to engage in the craft of taking film photos, which we're going to see how good they are, but I'm not tied to them being good or bad at this moment. But there's like some cute shots on the website. And also, if you want to reach out to me and bring me to your organization or book me for workshops, that's where you can hit me up at. Other than that, I'm also BLKBOIMARS on Instagram and Twitter. I recently liberated myself from Facebook, but not really because they still own Instagram.
Baby steps, baby steps.
Look, I was like, my mental health has never been better. No, I don't know what
Listen,
happens on that Facebook.
I've been off for a
They
year, so
can
you
keep
know,
it.
almost a year.
Look, they can keep it, okay?
Mm-hmm,
Need no,
mm-hmm.
I need no drama, no Facebook drama. But yeah, those are ways in which you can find me and say hello. It would be really good to connect with y'all.
Please do, y'all. And what's that Cash App?
Uh, let me take a look because what
Listen,
is my
listen,
Cash
you
App?
all drop random donations. Support Mars in this endeavor. Support Mars in supporting the young people. Support Mars and putting this brilliant creativity consistently out into the world. This is, and I say this deeply from my heart. This is a tremendous human being.
Mm,
I consider Mars a friend. I'm grateful that Mars is my friend and a confidant and someone that I genuinely trust. Would trust with my life, to be honest with you. And I'm
mm,
just really honored to be in conversation with you right now. And I hope all the wonderful things that you want to see in your life and beyond, I hope that they all come into fruition because you deserve it.
thank you so much. It's such an honor to be in this have this conversation with you, but more importantly, to be your friend and to be in community with you and yeah, for us to be plotting on all kinds of things,
So
right?
much coming up.
Uh, Tawana is like the master organizer, like is organizing everything. And I want to extend that same gratitude to you. There are so many ways in which you have shown up for me in my life, but there are many ways in which you have shown up for Detroiters, ways in which um, people probably can't even imagine, right? So I really want to extend a lot of gratitude for your artistry, right? For your creativity, but also for the immense ways in which you have organized in this city to ensure that Black Detroiters matter, to ensure that Black Detroiters are seen, and to ensure that all Black folks here um, are free from the surveillance state, can get free from the surveillance state. So I'm really grateful for you as a person, and also as an artist, and also as an organizer. So thank you, thank you.
Oh, see, I wasn't even coming for that, but I will take it.
Go ahead and shed a
Listen,
tear.
listen, y'all.
What
See, this
Tupac
is
said,
this is
shed
the
so
love
many
fest
tears.
that we have, and this is the platform that I am grateful to create. Like there are so many generous, incredible human beings out here, just being good people,
Mm,
and we don't get enough airplay. We don't get enough opportunities to just talk about how we be better human beings. And so
mm,
um once again, Mars, thank you so much. Petty Propolis has American artists coming up. We have Michael McDaniel coming up. We have One Single Rose coming up. We have Sandyland coming up. There are so many other tremendous, incredible folks coming up. I hope you stay in touch with us. As I indicated, Mars is on Petty Propolis Advisory. We got some big things coming up in the future. And so stay in touch with us. Donate to Mars. Follow the website. Follow them on Instagram. Support the AMC. It's a
Support the
kick
AMC.
conference, y'all. You never been to the AMC? I'm telling
Yo,
you,
come,
I'm
let me tell
ready.
you. Look, it sounds like it's just a conference, but I promise you it's not. And there's also 4 nights of party. So come to the AMC,
The
support the
best
AMC.
parties, the best parties. Listen, it had its first virtual version, and I thought I was at the club. I'm serious. I'm serious. So thank you for all that you do. And if you don't have that Cash App, we're gonna end this now.
I sent it to, I texted to you.
What's the Cash App? See, Mark, remember when I told y'all how humble Mars was? Mars don't even want to give y'all the Cash App, y'all. The Cash App for Mars is $ capital N for Nadine, X capital M ARS. So $ Nadine X Mars. And so make sure you see Mars when you before you send that money, so you're not sending it to somebody else. But please do support artists, y'all. It's hard out here trying to be an artist. Support artists, support brilliance, support humanity, support all the things that Mars does. Thank you so much, Mars. I'm so geeked that we had this conversation.